In some U.S. cities, a law from the 19th century on deformities remained in effect until the 1970s. Maimed, deformed, sick, and other people whose appearance caused disgust were prohibited from appearing in public under threat of a fine. Early stage of a beauty contest, evaluating contestants' figures, USA, late 1940s. The Japanese during World War II displayed unprecedented cruelty, killing more Chinese people than the Nazis killed Jews. Tens of thousands of Chinese women were raped. Many of them were killed. Horse diving, a popular show where riders and horses jumped from an 18-meter height, 1969. In the summer of 2009, over 20,000 dogs were killed in the Chinese province of Shanxi by government order. Earlier, in 1983, a special decree was passed in Beijing to destroy all domestic animals as they polluted the environment. Even earlier, domestic cats and dogs were declared symbols of uselessness and were destroyed. Collapse of the Tasman Bridge, Australia, 1975. 2 supports and 3 sections of the bridge fell into the water, killing 7 crew members and 5 motorists. How the Victorian corset damages the ribs, 1882. Wreckage of the submarine Kursk, Barents Sea, 2000. A brutal experiment in the U.S. lasting from the 1930s to the 1970s. Over 600 African American workers from Alabama were given placebos and arsenic, despite a known remedy for syphilis. The purpose of the experiment was to observe how African Americans die from syphilis. Cat mobilization, USSR, 1942. 5,000 cats were sent to Leningrad to fight rodents and protect food supplies. The oldest advertisement for escort services. These are the sandals of ancient Greek prostitutes with a mirrored inscription, "Follow me." The imprint of the inscription was left on the ground, thus advertising their services. A Jewish man jumps out of a window during the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising. Warsaw, Third Reich, 1943. Preparing a slave for sale, USA, 19th century. Freed slaves aboard HMS Daphne, 1868. U.S. President Lyndon Johnson listens to a report from his son-in-law about the real situation in Vietnam, Washington, 1968. Children's Carnival against child beating, with slogans, "Down with the belt," and "No place for the whip," USSR, 1930. A 2-headed dog created by Russian scientist Vladimir Demikhov in 1954 through the transplantation of one dog's head onto another. The dog lived for 1 month. The window of a rodent extermination business. They say they're still in business. Russians see cinema for the first time, 1924. Officials inspect the remains of cosmonaut Vladimir Komarov after the 1967 spacecraft crash. A Chernobyl liquidator prepares to clean the reactor roof. He burned to death from radiation after 40 minutes. Chernobyl, 1986. An American destroyer escorts a Soviet freighter carrying missiles from Cuba after the Cuban Missile Crisis, 1962. Abraham Lincoln was assassinated a few months before the creation of the Secret Service to protect the president and other high-ranking officials. Ironically, the bill to create the service was on Lincoln's desk. Eunuch from the Imperial Court, Beijing, 1949. The photo shows everything that remained of a person who was sitting on the steps 250 meters from the nuclear explosion. Hiroshima, August 6, 1945. During World War II, the Soviet army trained suicide dogs to destroy enemy tanks. Starving dogs were taught that food could be found under a mock-up of a combat vehicle. Military leader Geronimo of the Chiricahua Apache, right, who led the fight against the U.S. invasion of his tribe's land for 25 years. In 1886, he was forced to surrender to the U.S. Army. One of the 4 preserved human nervous systems, the extraction took over 1,000 hours. White people near the house of a black family they set on fire during the race riots in Chicago, 1919. Tenzing Norgay and Edmund Hillary, the first to conquer Everest, 1953. A man asking for help from a passing car during the brutal genocide in Rwanda, 1994. People trying to board a plane during the evacuation of American troops, South Vietnam, 1975. This case shocked France. In 1876, Blanche Monnier from Poitiers fell in love with a poor lawyer, but her mother opposed the marriage. After an argument, the girl disappeared. No one suspected that she was locked in an attic for 25 years by her mother. When the police arrived after a neighbor's report, Blanche weighed only 55 pounds. Metallica performs a concert at San Quentin Prison, California, 2003. A Japanese soldier who continued to wage guerrilla warfare for 28 years because he did not know World War II had ended, Japan, 1974. Foreskin or death. A Pakistani soldier checks whether a man is circumcised, i.e., whether he is Hindu or not, during the Bangladesh War of Independence, 1971. New York, September 11, 2001. The start of the one-legged World War I veterans race, New York, 1918. At the start of the Russo-Japanese War, caricatures of a crying Japanese man being whipped by a Cossack were popular in Russia, Russian Empire, 1904. Eventually, Russia lost the war, suffering massive losses. This is a wealthy family, 1910s, Liberia. In the 19th century, a movement arose in the U.S. to return freed African slaves to Liberia. Later, African Americans captured lands of indigenous tribes, enslaving them, and, replicating the U.S. lifestyle, became slaveholders. Republicans were inspired by abstractionism and surrealism. They created special torture chambers for captured Francoists during the Spanish Civil War. These rooms contain beds with a 20-degree incline, floors with randomly placed bricks, and paintings on the walls. Torture also included watching the film Un Chien Andalou. During World War I, cats were kept in trenches to warn of gas attacks in advance. During World War II, they were taken aboard submarines as live air quality detectors. German soldiers help a Frenchman stuck in the mud at Verdun. World War I, 1916. A man is walking to deliver a package, unaware of the magnitude of the tragedy. New York, September 11th, 2001. Riots, 1960, Tokyo. In those years, Japan witnessed mass student group protests. The main demand was the closure of U.S. military bases. Volvo car crash tests, 1980s. Soldiers of the Potomac Army fight over a bottle of wine during the Civil War, Virginia, 1863. In Soviet Russia, some prisoners, fearing for their lives, would tattoo images of Stalin on their chest or other parts of their body because guards were not allowed to shoot at images of their national leaders. Outside the U.S. Embassy in Moscow, after a demonstration against the U.S. military invasion of Lebanon, 1958. Women prepare anti-tank trenches around Moscow, 1941. In 1910, safe razor inventor King Camp Gillette offered former U.S. President Theodore Roosevelt a large sum of money to head his corporation in Arizona. Roosevelt declined, saying he didn't trust someone who made razors and wore a mustache. The wedding of oil magnate Howard Marshall II, an American supermodel, Anna Nicole Smith, 1994. Evelyn Smith, a former stripper, was hired by a jealous woman to kill her lover. USA, 1935. Members of the ultra-left Student Association protest against the arrival of the American nuclear submarine Sea Dragon at a naval base in Japan, 1964. A woman hit by an incendiary bomb during an anti-government demonstration at Dankook University, Seoul, 1988. Pearl Harbor after the surprise attack by Japanese aviation, Hawaiian Islands, 1941. Removing from friends in the 20th century. Many who fell out with friends or relatives would cut their faces out of photos. A banquet of disfigured faces, dinner for French soldiers who were disfigured during World War I, Paris, 1925. American burlesque dancer Miss Zarita walks her snake, 1940s. Professional silent mourners attended the funerals of any wealthy deceased in Victorian England, 1896. Their duties were simple: to silently and sorrowfully stand at the entrance to the house, holding a staff with a bow. Passers-by, seeing the silent mourners, would be overcome with the somber atmosphere of the funeral. One of the largest aviation disasters in Germany, during a bombing demonstration from a dive at low cloud cover, 13 bombers flying one after another crashed into the ground, 1939. A man stops a tank with his body during the Soviet invasion of Czechoslovakia, 1968. In the late 1960s, Czechoslovakia sought to implement some democratic standards, like freedom of speech and press. Smallpox, the only human disease that was successfully eradicated. Smallpox cannot be treated, and the smallpox vaccine was the first successful vaccine ever invented. In 1913, 19-year-old student Terry Williams invented mascara by mixing soot with Vaseline. German soldiers march in front of the armistice wagon, where in 1918, Germany signed the surrender to France. 22 years later, France would sign the surrender to the Reich in the same wagon. A mother teaches her children, Louisiana, USA, 1937. One of the main causes of death during the U.S. Civil War was diarrhea, and soldiers from both armies had an unwritten code of honor. One could not shoot a soldier from the opposing army who was squatting to relieve himself. The armored Mercedes-Benz of the president of Ingushetia after an assassination attempt by the Russians, 2005. Ella Harper earned $200 a week as a star in a traveling freak show in the 1880s, born with a rare disease that caused her knees to bend backward. Hamas militants in the residence of Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas after its capture, June 15, 2007. An elephant named Tyke attempted to escape from a circus in the U.S. Police shot her 86 times before she died. She died over 2 hours. The next time you're told that animals enjoy working in circuses, remember this photo and the panic, pain, and helplessness in her eyes. Charlie Chaplin and his wife Una, 1940s. Prostitute's identification card. Prostitution was legal in Russia, but only after registration, 1904. Women from North and South Vietnam, survivors of the war, witnessed the reunification of their country, 1975. The graves of a Catholic woman and her Protestant husband separated by a wall. After death, the community did not allow them to be buried in the same cemetery. Netherlands, 1888. Despite strong pressure from the Catholic Church, Ireland allowed the free sale of contraceptives, 1978. The Church believed that sex was only justified for procreation. An organized criminal group that terrorized London from the Victorian era until the mid-20th century was called the 40 Elephants, and it was made up entirely of women. London, 1880s. The coffins of 19 peasants are transported on trucks for burial. Pará State, Brazil. In 1996, 1,500 peasants occupied a highway near the village of Eldorado dos Carajás to protest the government's delay in settling their families. By the end of the day, military police with rifles and machine guns surrounded the protesters on both sides of the road and opened fire, killing 19 peasants and wounding 57. Determining racial affiliation in Germany, 1940. A radio broadcast about gangsters, USA, 1930s. An Egyptian column destroyed by Israeli aviation during the Six-Day War. At the end of the war, Israel gained control of territory 3.5 times larger than its pre-war area, 1967. The iceberg photographed the day after the Titanic sank. There is a high probability that it was the cause of the sinking. Matador Alvaro Munero, in the middle of a fight, suddenly sat down at the edge of the arena in remorse. Later, Alvaro confessed, "Suddenly I saw not horns, but the eyes of the bull. He just stood there, looking, not trying to attack. In his eyes, full of innocence, I saw a plea for help. Reading this, I felt like the worst creature on earth and stopped the fight." A man arrested for dressing as a woman, 1939. The wife of the commandant of the German concentration camps Buchenwald and Majdanek was most famous for her obsession with leather products made from human skin. She particularly liked skin with tattoos, from which, by her orders, gloves, lampshades, and bookbindings were made. After the war, she was sentenced to life imprisonment. Europeans after a tiger hunt, India, 1900s. At the beginning of 1947, the USSR imposed a ban on marriages between foreigners and Soviet citizens in an effort to combat espionage. Fake heads used during the famous escape from Alcatraz in 1962 were made from wax and left in beds so that the guards wouldn't notice their absence. 3 prisoners escaped the island on a homemade raft. They were never found, and it is believed they likely drowned in the waters of San Francisco Bay. A demonstration of a new fireproof plastic by DuPont, 1966. Captain Paul Tibbets just before taking off, during which the bomb was dropped on Hiroshima, 1945. During hyperinflation in Germany, workers were paid twice a day, morning and evening, and during lunch, they were released from work to buy something with their rapidly depreciating money. People pose on the carcass of a dead whale painted with graffiti. California, 1919. Hiroshima before and after the explosion. Slogans such as "Brits go home" and "Malta wants independence," 1960. French Catholic clergy in Dijon burning an effigy of Santa Claus in front of children in protest against the pagan Christmas, 1951. Teeth sharpening among Indonesian tribes, 1938. French police show the way to entering the German Wehrmacht in Paris. In 1945, France would become one of the victorious countries. Winston Churchill in Boer War captivity, standing on the right. South African Republic, 1899. Laszlo Toth, arrested after committing an act of vandalism. He attacked Michelangelo's Pietà, shouting, "I am Jesus Christ. Christ has risen from the dead," and managed to strike it 15 times with a hammer, 1972. International Women's Day was born as a day representing women's fight for their rights in a man's world. The first declarations of women's rights appeared in the 18th century. In the 19th century, women gained more rights but were still considered property of men. By the early 20th century, women were already holding rallies for equality and soon proposed the establishment of a unified International Women's Day. Boy Scouts collect money for the survivors of the Titanic, England, 1912. A patient undergoing treatment for mental illness in Germany, 19th century. A woman with a portrait of her son meets the last train with former German prisoners from the USSR, Germany, 1955. Forget about spy gadgets. In the 1960s, the CIA launched Operation Acoustic Cat. The plan was to train cats to eavesdrop on Russian conversations. The first agent cat, with a microphone in its ear, a transmitter in its collar, and an antenna implanted in its tail, was sent to position but tragically died under the wheels of a taxi. Hitler's favorite actress, Russian spy Olga Chekova. She was one of the main organizers of one of the most promising attempts on the Führer's life. But at the last minute, Stalin canceled the assassination of Adolf. A comradeship trial over a woman who didn't want to work and pretended to be ill, USSR, 1935. An apraxia vendor in a suit made from apraxia, 1890. This is a screenshot from the 1970s show The Dating Game. The man circled is serial killer Rodney Alcala. He became the winner of the show, but the woman refused to go on a date with him. Imagine how lucky she was. Thank you for watching this video until the end. I hope these photos impressed you. Some may have made you angry, brought a smile, made you happy, or perhaps even caused some negativity. Feel free to leave your comments and stay tuned for the next part. Don't forget to subscribe and like the video. Bye.